Hi guys, welcome back to Dualcraft Labs. Today we're going to make this eyeball on this ornament. Now I've picked a goldish one. You can pick whatever color you want, but I think it shows up really well. One of the first things that we have is a jig. Now this jig was 3D printed. If you don't have a 3D printer, they sell these jigs on Etsy if you want, but honestly you don't even have to do that. You can use like a bag of rice or something, just anything to stabilize and make sure that the ornament does not move around there. Make sure that your UV is on and that you're getting both the red and the blue lights here. This is really important. The blue light doesn't show up if you're looking through your yellow plastic cover here, but you want to make sure that that blue light is in the center of your jig or wherever it may happen to be, because whenever you put your ball on here, that's going to help focus it. So whenever you put your ornament on there, make sure that that's about in the middle of the ornament so that you can see what that actually looks like, and so that it will actually focus on the center of that ornament and you're not off on one side or the other. Now don't forget, ornaments, because they're round, they're going to have a little bit of a skew to them one way or the other. That's the reason why you want that focus right there in the middle, so it's at the highest point. The UV laser does a pretty good job. We're not going to have to do anything too special whenever we get into the software to actually create this. We're not going to do a curved surface or anything like that. You could do that if you wanted to, if you had something that's a little bit further down on the sides or you know towards the top or bottom. But with this particular ornament, we don't have to do that. This ornament that I'm using is about it's probably about 2.5 inches across or so that we're looking at here. So it does a really good job of, especially if you get this and you're able to center it here on the ornament itself. Once you get that set up, we can move over to the software because all of this is done. Always make sure that your lid is down. Safety first. Now that we have our ornament in the jig, in the UV laser, we can come over here to Xtool Studio. Once we're in our studio, we can click in the upper right over here where it says New Project. We're going to go ahead and click that New Project. This will open up a new canvas for us. If your laser does not automatically connect, you heard that little beep there, that tells me that it's connected, and it says ready right here. If yours doesn't automatically do that, you can click these kind of arrows right here. It's an arrow icon, and then you can select your laser here to connect it. Whenever it connects, it will automatically take a screenshot for you so you can see what you're working with. However, don't do anything with this yet because things are going to change, especially whenever we measure this. It will take another screenshot, and we'll see that the image actually changes a little bit. I like to work from the top down whenever we're in the software. So we're going to leave this first one as it is. We're going to leave this as a flat, and then come down here to the material, and I'm going to select my frosted black glass. Now, our ornament isn't black, however, it is frosted, and I find that this setting works really well. Mine's already coming up here because this is something that I've used previously. But if you don't have this coming up, you can always come up here to the search materials, type in glass, and then scroll down till you find the frosted black glass or any of the other glass that you would be looking for. We can then click this and then click apply over here to the right. Now that this is applied, we can now have to focus our laser to make sure that it's going to focus on that very top portion of the ornament, which is the highest peak. So we're going to click this ruler right here. If I hover over it, we get this auto measure here. This is going to go ahead and auto measure our particular ornament. If you can see your laser from where you're at, you'll notice that that red dot starts to move as the laser head goes up and down. That's going to align with that blue dot that we talked about earlier whenever we were placing our ornament in the jig and inside the UV on the base plate. Once it's done, you'll get 2 notifications that the focusing was successful, and it will do image capture will also come up. And your image will probably change. So that's the reason why we don't place any images before we actually measure. To get your image over here onto our ornament, we're going to come over here to the left to our tool palette. We're going to click Import. That's this plus sign right here. And up pops our dialog box, and we're going to select, in this case, that eye with a starburst. It's going to come up and it's going to start loading in that particular image. And what it finds is it's too large for our work area. Now, the work area is this entire area that you can see in the image. This includes the base plate, the jig, the ornament, and everything that you see here. If you keep it to the sides, it's going to be very hard to find those anchor points so that you can make it smaller. We're going to go ahead and click Scale to Fit, and it's going to scale it to fit the entire image that we see here, not just the ornament or the item that we're working with. We're going to make this a little bit smaller, so I'm going to grab the bottom right anchor point, and we're just going to drag that up to make it smaller. You want to kind of eyeball it, no pun intended, and we are going to then place this on our ornament. Now, because our ornament is round, we don't want to set this in the center. If we set this in the center, what would happen is that would be about centered right there. Come down just a little bit. That would be there. But what would happen is our top portion up here would not engrave because it's so out of focus because of that curve. It would also not be in the center. It would be up at the top too much whenever we actually engrave this onto our ornament. So what we want to do is we want to bring this down towards the bottom a little bit. Not completely down to the bottom, but more towards the bottom, because whenever we engrave this, this will actually be engraved on the center whenever we do this. This may take you 1 or 2 tries to really get this on where you should place it, but what I've found is that if you place your image more towards the bottom and leave about this 3 millimeters here, or maybe 1/8 of an inch of your image here, that this will actually work and your image will appear in the middle. Now that we have this image here, over on the right, we have all of our processing options that we can take a look at. It automatically goes to engrave because of the type of image that we're using. I'm going to leave my dot duration as 200. This works really well for this particular type of ornament. I'm also going to leave my power at 100. That will make sure that I really burn off any of that particular frosting or coating that's on this ornament. We are then going to change, however, the DPI. I like to change my DPI to 500. That gives it a nice crisp look, and we don't get kind of this out of focus look sometimes whenever we go with a lower DPI. I do want to leave my frequency at 40. I prefer Stucki. I find that strikes a nice balance between our Jarvis and our Atkinson. There, Stucki does a really nice job for what we're looking at. And then the Bi-Directional, I always leave on there as well. Now, you could frame this if you want. I generally don't do this, especially with round objects, because what I find is that the round objects, the framing is a little bit off whenever you do it because it is a round object, and it just doesn't work as well. That's the reason why I eyeballed it. I did a number of test pieces in order to find my optimal settings as well as where to actually place the image. That's the reason why I don't do focusing on the round objects. Now, I do them on flat objects to make sure that my image is where that I want it and anything like that. We can then click on Process here once you have your image where you want it and all of your options for engraving have been input. We're going to go ahead and click Process. This will go ahead and start processing your image. You'll see that it will bring up what your image will look like, kind of, and then up here it will tell you about how long it will be. This is just a rough estimate. It's actually pretty good on how long this takes. So you'll notice that this actually has about 2 minutes and 51 seconds there for this particular image. We can then click Start, and it will go ahead and send the file to our laser, and then we can go ahead over and click that Start button. So we're over here. We're going to go ahead and press Start. You'll notice that it says Ready. Press the Xtool button. So we're going to go ahead and press our button there, and this is going to go ahead and start engraving this. Now, this doesn't take very long. Like we said, this only takes about 2 minutes. Again, make sure that your hood is down. You can sit here and watch it, and it's going to engrave, and it's going to look white whenever we first see it. But we're going to take an extra step here in a little bit once it's done, and we're going to really make this pop out, and we're going to use some black spray paint and spray this so that this will actually pop out on this nice gold or yellow colored ornament here. Now, you'll notice, like I said, that the placement of this is really important. Notice that we had this down towards the bottom and not so much up towards the top. But if you look, you can see that it starts engraving more towards the top, really where that curve really comes into play here. So we have that middle of the eyeball almost in the middle of this ornament at the very top peak of that curve. And that's kind of what we want. We want this kind of in the middle so that it doesn't look lopsided or anything like that. Again, this only takes about 2 minutes, 51 seconds is what it's saying. I think it takes a little bit less than that, but only by a few seconds. So we're just going to go ahead and watch this until it's done. And you can see that it actually took 2 minutes and 47 seconds, so about 4 seconds less than what it said. If we lift this up, we can now see that we have our ornament here with the eyeball, but it doesn't really pop too much, right? You can see it did not go through to the back or anything like that. And this is nice. If you like this, this is where you can stop. You've made this ornament with this eyeball or whatever your image may happen to be. However, I like to really make this stand out a little bit more. Now, it's a little bit colder here. I'm up in the Northeast, so I'm up in my kitchen. You'll notice that I have my lovely box here that I've done some other stuff in. You're going to make sure that your spray paint is nice and shaken up, especially if it's a little bit colder out. And you'll notice I'm just using some Rust-Oleum 2X paint and primer here. This is Canyon Black. It is a satin instead of a matte or a gloss. I find that the satin works a little bit better than some of the other ones. You want to make sure that you pull the little stem off because we're going to use this area here to go ahead and spray your spray paint in there. We're going to, you may want to wear gloves for this, by the way, because you may get a little bit of spray paint on you. That's kind of normal for me. People are used to seeing me with paint on my fingers. So we're just going to spray in here. You want to try and get it at the bottom of where you're at, and then we're going to kind of roll this around to make sure that we're getting and coating that one side really, really good. Now, what I like is not everything to be black in order for it to show off. We kind of want to show that the eyeball and then leave those little kind of rays that are coming out of it a little bit by themselves. You can see here that it did a really good job here. That eye really pops out now. And then we have all of these little white pieces around the edges that are coming off that are white. And I think that really sets off the eye. If you don't like that, you can always spray that. Make sure that you're getting all of that covered and everything like that. And then all you do is you let this dry, you put the top on, and you've got yourself a really nice ornament for Halloween or Christmas or even all year round, depending on what you want to do with this. Thank you guys. We hope that you enjoyed this little tutorial on how to make this ornament. If there's anything that you'd like to see, don't forget to put it in the comments and like, subscribe, and follow.